Welcome to the Bridge Capital monthly video series entitled Asking for a Friend. I'm your host, Eric Jefferson. And this month, in response to a number of inquiries we've had with respect to what likely will be a government shutdown set to take place over the weekend, I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking through, first and foremost, what that actually entails, as well offer some perspective on the likely implications both to our broader economy and to the stock market. Before we get started, we have a few quick words from our legal team as well. Would also offer the reminder, please submit any topics you'd like to see for consideration in future events. Now, we think about what likely is set to take place. Again, our nation's budget set to expire. That therefore requires congressional approval to extend it. Currently in a stalemate, doesn't look like we will have a deal by the end of the month. This is recorded Friday morning, the 29th, as of 10 a.m. So what will happen? Well, likely over the weekend, our federal government will shut down. That certainly doesn't mean, though, everything turns off. What is defined as essential operations will continue. Those are functions like the TSA, prison guards, postal workers, the U.S. military, and not surprisingly, the IRS. Seniors on Social Security and Medicare will continue to receive their benefits, as will both veterans and those currently on unemployment. While essential workers will continue to work, the one caveat there is instead of receiving a weekly paycheck, they will in essence be given an IOU, while non-essential workers, think park rangers, museum operators, they will effectively be furloughed, not returned back to work until some sort of resolution is reached. Now, the good news is we see fewer and fewer federal employees relative to years past. That being said, obviously, for any individual that relies on that weekly paycheck, this could be especially difficult on top of the fact you consider inflation still remains elevated, as are the negative effects of higher interest rates. Now, we take a step back and think more broadly the impact on our overall economy. Now, obviously, government spending represents a very large portion of our GDP. Non-essential services, though, much smaller, only 3% overall. And as I mentioned, with the average shutdown lasting only 8 days, that tends to have a fairly minimal, if not non-existent impact on our economy. Similarly, given that this has happened 21 times now in our nation's history, the stock market has become somewhat comfortable or at least familiar with the situation. Just over half of those shutdowns, 12 cases, market has actually traded marginally higher. Again, by no means is this a good thing for markets, but one that they have become increasingly more comfortable with. The bigger concern, in my opinion, would be twofold. One, if some deal was not reached, that could certainly result in investors questioning the creditworthiness of our debt obligations, a la hesitation to invest in our treasury notes. That therefore would require our government to offer higher yields or coupons paid in order to incentivize investors to lend us money. This obviously coming at a time where interest rates already remain very elevated. That in turn somewhat starts to spiral the debt burden or further increases the amount of interest that we have to pay on our debt to then incentivize folks to continue to lend us money. The second concern would also be if there are some sort of drastic spending cuts agreed to in order to create these budget extensions, that's something that could longer term have an impact on our overall GDP. That being said, certainly some changes do have to happen. This is something, in my opinion, happened all too frequently, a function of our spending relative to what we take in, a trend that has been moving in the wrong direction for the last several presidencies. That's all for this month. As always, happy to discuss anything in more detail. If you don't connect, have a great rest of the week. Take care.